Hello, everyone. This is Aaron Yoon from iFlip Invest, and my guest today is the author of Fibonacci Trading. She has been involved in the trading industry since 1978, starting off on the floor of the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. Her work is often featured on the Off the Charts segment of CNBC's Mad Money with Jim Cramer. Please welcome the Queen of Fibs, Carolyn Borodin.
Thanks for having me.
How did you get into trading in the first place? What got you into this business?
I had no interest in the markets growing up, but what happened was, believe it or not, I ran away from home. I quit high school, and then my cousin said, "Hey, there's this job open on Wall Street. Do you want an interview?" And I said, "Okay." And that's how I got started. So I was at Donaldson, Lipkin and Jenrette in New York when I was 18 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're telling me they were hiring people that were high school dropouts back then?
Well, here's the thing. I was hired as a secretary/gopher.
Okay.
I just had to have typing skills, but I did work, inside the government bond trading room.
Wow. And what was that like?
Yeah, it was a little bit insane. They still had plenty of those monitors all around the trading room, but we actually had to keep track of the trades by hand and a calculator, which was insane. I mean, it didn't make any sense to me, but
I don't know if I could do that. If I had to track all my trades by hand manually,
yeah.
with a calculator, wow, that's crazy.
Well, that's the old days, right?
How would you say that experience of basically pencil and paper type trading has affected you and shaped your ability to succeed in the markets today in this internet digital age?
I went from, the paper as far as keeping track of trades, but then I started with paper charts. So when I was at the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, we had these commodity perspective magazines that they would put out every Monday. And then you would have to use a pencil and add the high, low, and close of the day. So again, that was the old days. We didn't have, what we have on the computers now.
Right. I feel like that probably would demand a much higher level of discipline than what people might be used to, entering with the markets with today. I don't know. How do you feel?
Absolutely. I mean, I couldn't do the amount of work that I do now without my computer.
So you're also known as the Queen of Fibs, which is a really cool nickname. How did you earn that title?
Well, I had a client in Chicago, and when he came to my seminar, after the seminar, he started calling me Queen Fibonacci. And then that switched over to Fibonacci Queen, which then went to Queen of Fibs. So I do like the Queen of Fibs, though.
And it just caught on because that's your main technique? Is that where that came from?
Yes. I mean, basically, I specialize in it, and I've been doing it for years. And I think I do it, different than anybody else that does it out there.
Got it. Can't wait to see more of that in Dallas. I think I'm going to sit in and take some notes myself. I've always seen that you can draw the lines, but I haven't understood how to interpret it as powerfully as you're talking about. So
I will teach you that when I get there.
Awesome. For those of us that don't know, can you give us a brief overview as to what the Fibonacci is?
Well, the Fibonacci number series, basically, you get the next number in the series by adding the prior two numbers. So like 3 + 5 = 8, and then 8 + 5 = 13. And what you found out, though, as you went out to infinity, is that inside those numbers was the golden ratio, or 1618. So basically, if you take one number, like as you go further out, like 21 times 1618, that's going to give you the next number of 34 of the ratios.
Now your email address actually makes sense to me. There's
Yes.
You have a 1618. Yep. I assumed that it was some kind of birthday or something.
Yes,
but that's what that means. Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, that's where you get the main ratio, but then all the other ratios that I use are also derived from it mathematically.
Gotcha.
So I actually will have a slide on that, and I'll show you when I get there.
Oh, can't wait. Can't wait. We know that we're featuring you as one of the live traders or analysts on the market open. So you'll be starting off our mornings for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about what we can expect.
Well, basically, all I'm going to do is run all possible ratios, retracements, extensions, and projections on the chart. The first thing that, I do when I get to the computer is that I open up the charts and I see what needs to be updated and, what might not need to be updated. And I'll get the setups ready for everybody down to a 10-minute chart in the stock index futures. So I do have a lot of swing traders, but I also have a lot of day traders. And, the 10-minute charts are good for them because I can probably get at least 3 setups a day on the 10-minute charts, maybe 1 or 2 on the 120-minute chart. And then also I use some stocks, 30-minute charts, like I'll do Tesla, NVIDIA, and I will typically find at least 1 setup on the 30-minute charts in each of those stocks that I look at. But not only that, I also do intraday timing. So that's going to be interesting. So basically, I'll take the swings on an intraday chart, and the program obviously will do the math, and I'll be able to project times where we're more likely to change trend in the market. So besides the price work, we'll also be doing the timing work. For example, if I'm going to do a 120-minute chart in the S&P futures, that's not going to change that much. But every day, I use a 10-minute chart. Now, the 10-minute chart will have to be updated constantly throughout the day. I do it maybe differently than other people do. Just because we have a support zone doesn't mean you buy. I teach people how to use triggers. I mean, we at least need to see something that tells you that it's worth taking a trade against a particular zone. One of the simple triggers would be I use an 834 EMA crossover on a lower time frame chart because you want to get involved in the market as close to where your definition of risk is. In the process, I also want to see the pattern shift. So for a buy, it would basically be taking out a prior swing high along with the crossover.
Got it. Got it. Yes. One of the most important things that I had to learn the hard way was you want a confluence of evidence, not just one piece of evidence. I'll admit I was the guy that was just taking every pushing the button every time it
that
hit
can be painful.
Zone. It is painful. Your win rate and your risk reward ratio just gets destroyed when you do it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned that the hard way. So backtracking just for a moment, tell us a little bit about how you got into actually teaching trading for others.
Yeah, after the crash of '87, things changed. The company that I was with had a lot of index clients, and they basically had some trouble monetarily. So my job didn't exist anymore there. So I ended up becoming a broker. And that was interesting, but I was a broker that also did technical analysis. And then, I would recommend things to the clients, and sometimes I'd talk them out of trades because I don't like them, which is probably not really a great idea if you're a broker, but that's what I did.
So you went from getting hired from the beginning, as a secretary / gopher.
Yeah.
And then you moved your way up into basically giving them research advice. Yeah, analysis. Yeah. Yep. That's pretty cool.
And then after that, one day I had a group ask me if I would give a presentation at their conference. And I was nervous. I was scared. You could probably tell I was shaking a little bit, but I did it. And that was basically the beginning of me teaching. And I'm trying to think after that. Well, I started getting invited to do the money shows and the traders expos and to just go over the methodology. And it just, it caught on. And then one time McGraw-Hill was in the audience and they asked me if I would write a book for them. And I said, okay. And we went from there. Wow.
That's an amazing track record. You also go way back with our very own Kelly Korshak.
Yes.
Many
years.
Many years. Yes. He speaks so highly of you. And so that's another reason I'm personally looking forward to having you in Dallas. But tell us a little bit about how you met Kelly and, what started that friendship?
I think it was in one of the offices that I was working in Chicago, and I think that he came through. And of course, everybody's very social, so we probably went out for cocktails one night, and then
Uh-huh.
that kind of continued forever. Like, yeah, I got to meet for some margaritas now. Let's go.
And have you worked with him at all professionally or
Yeah, at one
in
point,
separate companies?
he had a program that I ended up using, that he had written, and I ended up using it with a couple of clients. So we did actually work together for real.
Nice. Was that the precursor to iFlip's current algorithm and AI today?
Yeah, but I think it was 30 years ago. So I'm sure it's way different now.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So the reason I bring that up is a lot of people think that because iFlip was founded in 2016 or 2017, that time ish, that our AI is only 5 or 6 years old. And you can attest to the fact that no, this was many decades in the
Oh, yeah,
making, right?
absolutely.
You got to see a little bit of it before the internet even existed. Am I right?
Yes. And actually, Kelly forced me to get my first computer. He actually brought it over to my house, and I'm like, I don't want to work with this. I don't want to work with this. And since then, I probably had 100 computers, but it actually frightened me a little bit. But it ended up being the best thing in the world because now everything is done this way.
He forced you to stay up to date with the evolving times of
Yes,
technology.
yes.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. So throughout your teaching experience, what would you say is one of the biggest mistakes or misconceptions that prevents traders from hitting that level of profitability that we all strive for?
Well, I mean, I think the biggest thing is that you have to have a written trading plan. If you're looking at making money as a business, I mean, you really need to have specific things to look at and reasons to enter trades. So absolutely need that. But then there's also psychology issues. Some
Mhm.
people, well, a lot of people like to chase markets, the FOMO type thing.
Mhm.
And then there's also belief systems that some people fight with. So, for example, if you were brought up with the idea that money is the root of all evil, you might make some money in the markets, but you're probably going to give it back because you think it's evil. You connect it with that in your subconscious. And there are times where you actually have to work to change your subconscious.
Wow. Do you work with people on their own subconscious beliefs at all?
I'm not the expert in that. I do have a friend, Libby Adams, that does that.
Our subconscious drives the majority of our behavior, right?
Mhm.
And I think that in the trading world, it's no different. But I feel like it doesn't get talked about enough.
It
Most
probably
people,
should, because I think it's actually a larger part, of, I mean, a system's a system, but if you can't bring yourself to follow it and do what you need to do to be profitable, I mean, you're just going to give your money away.
there isn't a system that can't be ruined by a poor psychological makeup, right? And poor
Yeah.
execution. You also have a program on Academy. I think that is more of an straight educational program.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit more about that.
That's where I'll be teaching exactly what I do every single day. So, there's some people that just want to trade my work, and then there's other people that don't want to have to depend on anybody in the future. So they want to actually learn how to do it themselves so they can do their own analysis.
Gotcha. Can you give us a sneak peek? If I wanted to become someone like you, what can I expect to see in a program like that on Academy?
Well, I have to start from the basics
Okay.
because, so I mean, I'm going to teach people how each of the types of price relationships that I use. I'm also going to teach them how to work on the time axis of the market to identify time periods when the market may change. So between that, I'll also teach them how to use triggers for entries, and then a few other things, on trend basics and all that, and what are going to be the higher probability trade setups rather than the lower probability. Well, two of the classes, or segments that I teach, one is going to be on triggers and entries. And then the other one is on trading plan. But I also at the end touch on the fact that, if you have any subconscious issues, that you may need to address those before you can become successful.
the nature of the subconscious issues is a little bit sneaky, right? Because I might not be aware that
Right.
I have them. So what is a tip that you might have for everyone watching that maybe there is a programmatic kind of subconscious issue that I'm not even aware of? How can I detect it?
Oh, there's another thing that I have used, the EFT type of working on the programming, and it sounds a little bit strange, but you're basically tapping on, you know, certain points in your on your body to clear the subconscious issues. And you may just have to talk about the fact that, you know, I choose to be a successful trader. And then you see what comes up in your mind to fight that. And then when you see what is fighting that, then you work on that issue.
Will you be talking about that a little a little bit on stage?
Well, maybe in the cocktail hour, it's going to be difficult too.
Well, there you go. Catch
Yeah.
Carolyn after hours and you can
Yes.
get more information about that. So what will you be sharing with us on stage? Just give us a sneak peek.
Well, I'm giving the introduction to advanced Fibonacci time and price. So I'm going to do a segment on retracements, a segment on Fibonacci price extensions, and then also price projections, which is using 3 points on a chart. And then after that, I'm going to talk about Fibonacci price clusters. Now, I do 3 trade setups every single day, or at least I look for them. Now, I'm always finding Fibonacci price clusters because that's where we have the coincidence of at least 3 Fibonacci price relationships that come together within a relatively tight range. That's going to identify key support and key resistance. Okay, it's different than using single levels. This is going to be more powerful. The other thing I'm going to talk about is what I like to call symmetry. This is where you're comparing swings in the same direction. And when I show you a few of those slides, I mean, you're going to be in shock that you've never looked at this on your own because you've probably seen it intuitively, but don't understand how you can use that to make money. Yeah. And then, yeah, we'll also go over the time axis because I do timing from 2 points. You know, for example, I'll measure a high to high, multiply it by a Fibonacci ratio, project out into the future. And then I'll also look for a confluence of those cycles to come together within a few days. And typically, you know, we can get an intermediate change in trend when we see a nice cluster of cycles.
And this is all just coming straight from the Fibonacci technical analysis. Wow.
Yep.
One tool or one technique that
Yes.
can yield such powerful results, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Carolyn. We can't wait to have you in Dallas. To everybody watching, if you want even a little bit of an edge in the markets, both psychologically or systematically with your trading plan, join us in Dallas. Learn from the Queen of Fibs, October 20th to 21st. We'll see you there.
See you then.